Welcome to the Wargaming Garage and this narrative mission from Vigilus alone. Vigilus and its neighbouring systems form one of the few channels now known to connect the two halves of the galaxy. But it is a planet that knows no peace, constantly ravaged by war. It's the centre point in Vigilus alone. And today we're going to play the mission, the Crowning of Storvhal. So this mission sees a deactivated Noctilith Crown as the forces of chaos try to install and reactivate several of these crowns in order to create its own pathway. So they try to reactivate this crown, and this one's deactivated with energy nodes here, here, and here. And so the forces of chaos will need to activate those energy nodes, while the forces of the Imperium need to deactivate them. There'll be a slightly strange deployment today with the defenders, the forces of chaos within this triangle, and the forces of the Imperium, as you can see, quite far up the board, but well into and expanding, spanning across the width of the table. So quite a different deployment today. And here's the table. As you can see, we've put the Noctilith Crown out. We've got the energy nodes. We've got this destroyed cathedral and the workings of an industrial zone over to this side. But as you can see, this area has seen a war waged upon its streets. As you see, the forces of chaos have started to put up their barricades, started to defend that area there. And so this will be the scene for the crowning of Storvhal. And today, there's just over 2,000 points. I think 2,250 is what we've gone for. And we've decided to mix it up a little bit. We've got a force of the Ghosts of the Forge, the Salamander's successors. We've gone for an all Primaris force on this one, led by a Gravis captain and supported by a Primaris chaplain. We've then got some assault intercessors, some intercessors that have got an auto bolt rifle loadout. We've then got a squad of 4 eradicators and the squad of inceptors. I'll put the description of the armies, the list in the description below. But that's the Ghost of the Forge. The other part to the Imperial forces today, appearing for the first time, are the Knights. So we're running these as House Griffith today, and yeah, it'll be interesting. It's the first time they're on here, so just forgive anything that goes on with them because I've never ran them before. But either way, we've got a Helverin and 2 Warglaves, and then the larger knights at the back. We have a Knight Crusader and we have a Knight Errant. They are taking with them today the protect those in need and defend the realm for their oaths, so for their honour system. I'm not sure how much it'll come up because, like I say, we're playing a narrative game, so I will see how that fares. But the Knights and the Ghosts of the Forge, they're the forces that make up the Imperial side. So let's have a look at the forces of chaos. And here's just over 2,000 points, so 2,240 something, I think, of the Death Guard. Again, as per pretty normal on this channel, they're ran The Warlord today is Captain Trips, the Lord of Contagion, with the Malignant Plaguecaster as his second in command. In the elite slots, we've got the Foul Blightspawn and we've got the Tallyman. The Foul Blightspawn has got the Revolting Stench Vats, so that's a nice big 6-inch aura, which will turn off any charges. We've then got 2 squads of Blightlord Terminators, one with Bale Swords, a Reaper Autocannon and a Flail, and the other one all with axes, a Blight Launcher and a Flail. We've also got a squad of Death Shroud Terminators, with the champion having the Reaper of Glorious Entropy. We've then got 3 squads of Plague Marines. The first squad here at the front, that's a squad of 10. It's also got a Mace and Axe, another Axe, a Cleaver and a Flail, as well as then a Plasma Gun and bolt rifles, bolt guns. The second squad and third squad are both 7-man, with a champion and a special weapon, one being a Blight Launcher, one being a Plasma Gun. Then at the back we have a squad of 12 Poxwalkers, and in support we've got a squad of 2 Blight Haulers, a Plague Best Crawler, and we've got 2 Bloat Drones. Running this today as the Ferryman, as the Plague Company, so we'll see how that goes again today. But that are the force of the Death Guard. So all that being said, let's move on to deployment. And so deployment is complete for both sides. The Imperial forces spread out across the line in sort of pretty much 2 halves. The only difference, the only slight caveat to that is the assault intercessors that are in support of the knights over here, but a majority then of the forces sort of split down the table. So the salamanders or the ghosts are over this side, and the knights forming the right hand flank. For the Death Guard, they're pretty much castled up across the middle, because obviously they had that triangular formation to work through. So we've deployed some fast moving units on the right hand flank, and also some fast moving units on the left hand flank to counter some of the knights, as well as a Death Shroud, the Blight Lords, and then everything else in terms of infantry has set itself up in the middle of the board here to protect the crown. Speaking about the board, ruins and obscuring, this one in the middle is all ruins, one whole homogeneous block here of ruins and obscuring, and the same for this ruin here and here, and then everything else getting the usual terrain keywords like the containers and so on, giving the slight bit of cover. But that's it. So actions can be done on the nodes, either to destroy them or to enable them by both sides, and points are scored at the end of the turn for those that are turned on or destroyed. So all that being said, can the Imperial forces prevent this crown from being activated, or can the Death Guard add to the network being generated by the forces of chaos? So red dice will be Death Guard, white dice will be the Imperial forces. Let's roll off and see who gets first turn. Okay. So Death Guard win the roll off. Do they want to go first? Yeah, I think they do. The Death Guard. So at the end of the movement phase, the Blight Haulers have moved around. The Terminators have just shuffled about inside that building. The Poxwalkers advanced onto that objective there. And these Plague Marines just moved themselves forward. Whilst the Bloat Drones again advanced out to try and put pressure on the Imperial lines. The Tallyman rolled for the CP generation and got one, so the Death Guard have got an extra CP for this battle round. So now all that's done, we will move on to Psychic. The only thing Psychic we're doing at the moment, the Plaguecaster came through to support this blob over here, so he's going to give Miasma of Pestilence onto the Death Shroud, which goes off. So then -1 to hit now. And with that, we'll move on to the shooting. So we're going to start with the Plague Burst Crawler, and everything's going to go into that 9th Errant at the back there. See if we can start to plink some wounds off. So we'll start with some Tracer Bolter Fire from the Heavy Slugger. 2 hits. No wounds. A number of mortar shots for 5. Okay, we're going to spend the CP on increasing the damage to 3. So hit on 3s. Strength 8, toughness 8, so wounding on 4s. Okay, so 2 wounds, -2. Okay, and so we'll move on to the Blight Haulers, and they're going to go into that Helver in there. So we're going to start with the Crack Missiles. 2 hits, 2 wounds, makes 1, fails 1. Okay, the damage. So the damage for 6. Okay. Now the multi-melters. Okay, 2 miss. There's not much else going to shoot this turn because of where things are placed and ruins, etc. and obscuring. So I'll re-roll one of those with a CP, which pays off. Okay, so 3 to wound, 2 wounds, 2 5 up invulnerable saves, makes neither of them. Okay, I'm going to have to spend a CP to re-roll one of those. Oh. Okay, so 2d6 damage coming in. It's probably going to be a dead Helverin. Absolutely. Okay, does it explode? No. So, first blood to the Death Guard, and the Helverin melts into a pile of molten slag. So at the end of the Death Guard turn, we've managed to take out a Helverin and put some wounds onto the 9th Errant. So, that being the case, it has made some headway in mitigating some of the potential firepower coming from this right-hand flank. So with that, we'll move on to the Imperial forces, turn 1. So, at the end of the Imperial movement phase, as you can see, the Knights have started their advance right the way up the table. During the command phase, we put an advancing charge onto this Helverin and a +1 ballistic skill onto this Helverin. Warglaive, on both the Warglaives there. The Chapter Master put his re-rolls onto the Eradicators, and the Mantra of Strength and the Canticle of Hate, both of those went off for the Chaplain, the Master of Sanctity. We got a hefty advance for this squad of intercessors that got right up into the building looking for a turn 2, hopefully if they survive that long, getting on to the objective and see if they can start an action. Then around this side, this squad of intercessors just moved up and stayed behind the building. But as you can see here, coming around the other side of the table, we got a nice 6 on the advance for that warglaive, and he's right up into the enemy lines. So I'm happy to sacrifice a bit of shooting in order for him to be able to cause some damage into the lines here. So with that, there's no psychic phase for this army, so we'll move on to the shooting phase. So we'll start with this warglaive, and we're going to go, is the only one he can fire will be his melter gun, which is going to go into the Plague Burst Crawler. So he advanced, so it's -1, so hitting on 4s, which misses. That was a nice short sharp one. So then we'll move on to this warglaive, and everything's going to go into and soften up the blight haulers. So we'll start with the thermal spear. So hang on 2s because you've got +1 to his ballistic skill. Strength 9, toughness 6 I think. Anyway, either way, it's 3s, which wounds. And that'll go on to this -4, so we'll go on to the demon save anyway, which it fails. There is more coming into that, so I won't bother CPing that, so we'll go for D6 damage for 2, becomes 1. Excellent. And now for the melter gun on top, which hits, wounds, didn't want that one, and it fails the save. For 3 becomes 2, so a total amount there of 3 damage done to that warglaive. So now we're going to put everything from the Crusader into the Plague Burst Crawler, see if we can get rid of that. So we'll start with the Avenger Gatling Cannon. So it's 12 shots hitting on 3s. Strength 6 versus toughness 8, so 5s to wound. Oh, that's not a bad spread, to be fair. So -2 becomes -1, so 4 ups. Okay, and he takes it 2 damage reduced to 1 damage, so that Blight Hauler takes 3 more wounds, leaving him with 3 remaining. What am I about? I meant into the Plague Burst Crawler, so takes 3 wounds, leaves him with 9 remaining. The Thermal Cannon, which is 2d3. Okay, for 4 shots, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3, strength 9, toughness 8. I will use a CP. Okay. This is onto their demon save because it's -4, which he saves. Brilliant. So the thermal cannon from the Knight Errant will also go into the Plague Burst Crawler. So again, heavy 2d3 for 3 shots. All 3 hit. 2 wounds. Oh, makes 1, fails 1. So that's D6 damage. So it's D6 damage plus 2, so that 5 becomes 4. So that Plague Burst Crawler has 5 wounds remaining. So coming around with the side of the board, the Assault Intercessors fired into the Bloat Drone doing no damage, and these Intercessors, although they advance, have got auto bolt rifles, so they hit on 4s, did a few wounds, managed to actually get 1 through, so that drone's on 8 remaining. So coming over here, we'll fire all of these interceptors into the poxwalkers. So that's 18 shots hitting on 3s. And strength 5 versus toughness 4, so wounding on 3s. So that's 8, 6 up, feel no pain. Which 3 are saved, so 5 are slain. So now we come to these eradicators. They've got the re-rolls, and they're going to go into that bloat drone and see if we can get rid of it. So they're going to use the obliteration thing, whatever it's called, where they get to double tap. So that'll be 8 melter shots hitting on 3s. Okay. So strength 8, toughness 7, so wounding on 3s. And they all wound. Okay. So that's 5 demon saves coming up for the bloat drone. Which doesn't make a single one. Now, that's 5d6 damage. Let's see if we can get rid of 8 wounds, shall we? No, my rolling, it'll probably still live. No, it's well dead. Does it blow up? I believe it does. So, the only thing left, that's the shooting phase finished now. The only thing left to do will be to declare some charges. And at this point, it's going to be both of those warglaives going into the blight haulers. So I may as well spend a CP on Overwatch. So we're going to start off with the crack missiles, sorry. Nothing. And the melters. One gets one, okay, that's 1. 3's to wound. It wounds. 5 up invulnerable save, which is failed. Oh no. Right, so D6 plus 2 at this range. Okay, for 6 wounds going straight through. So, does the first one make it in? Just. The second one, yeah. So both warglaives are in, so we'll move them in and start the combat. So we'll start with the injured warglaive. Now he's bracketed. He'll be hitting on 4s. Okay. Strength is now strength 10 because he's going for the strike attack. So 3's to wound. Ow. So that's 1 wound on the demon save, which is failed. Yeah, I'll CP that. Still failed. So he takes 3 damage, reduced to 2 damage. So he's got 4 wounds left. So the second warglaive coming in. Okay, misses twice. I'm going to spend a CP as the Imperial player. Still misses. Excellent. 3's to wound. Okay. So now they get to fight back. So all of the attacks from both are going to go into the injured one. So hitting on 3s. That's not very good. So strength 6 versus toughness 6 now because of contagion. So 4's to wound. And not bad. So 3 at -2. And 2 go through. So that armiger has 4 wounds left. So that marks the end of the battle round and the Imperial turn. The Knights have gone headlong charging into the Death Guard lines, certainly tying up those Blight Haulers, but without being able to remove them, what's coming next is a whole bunch of Death Shroud and Terminators straight into them. So I have to see if they can weather the storm on that one. But everything else, the Imperial forces are starting to push their way on this left-hand flank as well. So let's see what the Death Guard can do in turn 2. And after the command phase and movement phase is complete for the Death Guard, at the start of turn 2, we spent the CP on bringing the Poxwalkers back, rolled the dice and managed to get all 5 back. Then during the movement phase, we remained in combat with the Blight Haulers and brought the Terminators round. The Tallyman put his tally onto this squad of Terminators, and around this side the Lord of Contagion moved forward, and the Death Shroud brought themselves out round to see if we can do a charge around the back of this armiger. Everything else just moved its way up the board. So into the centre here, the Poxwalkers move forward, supported by the Plague Marines. And around this side, the Bloat Drone just moved over the top to get an angle on the intercessors inside the ruins. So that completes the movement phase. So what we'll do is head on to Psychic. So we're going to cast a Smite into the Blight Haulers. Okay. I think I'm actually going to wear that. I think I'm going to do that. So D3 damage to himself for 1. Okay. And damage to the Blight Haulers. 5. Okay. So now he's going to cast Miasma of Pestilence on to the Terminators, which also goes off. He's rolling hot today. Okay. So he has 1 wound. That's a really successful psychic phase, and brings... oh, sorry, no, that's what am I looking at? I'm looking at the wrong dice. So that actually kills that. There's only 4 wounds left, so that does kill the armiger. So does he blow up? No. Okay, so we can remove him from play. And we'll head on to the shooting phase. So coming around this side of the table, we'll go on to the Bloat Drone, who's going to put all his shots into that squad of intercessors for a total of 5. And so strength 6, toughness 3 because of contagion. So 2s to wound, re-rolling 1s. Re-rolling that 1. Okay. So all 5 go through, -1 becomes -nothing. And the one who was on a wound, because the mortal wound dies. Okay. Moving on to this squad of Terminators, they're going to fire everything into this assault squad here. Wounding on 4s. 3 up saves. And 1 falls. Of course he does. Now the Reaper Cannon. Two wounds. And another wound taken. So what can see from this Plague Marine squad also fired out, doing not much until the Blight Launcher then managed to finish off the Assault Intercessor on 1 wound. So coming round to this squad of Plague Marines here, I'm going to fire into the Interceptors. So we'll start off with the Bolters. bad. 5s to wound on this occasion though. No, 4s to wound because they're just inside contagion range with those poxwalkers. So 2 wounds and both fine. The plasma misses. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll work our way around. So that's pretty much this flank all fired. We're going to head around to here and as far the Plague Burst Crawler with everything going into the Night Crusader. So we'll start with some Tracer Heavy Sluggers. Let's get those misses out of the way. Strength 5, toughness 8, so 5s to wound, no wounds. So how many shots off of the Plague Spewers? For 3. Re-rolling those ones. 1 wound, which he saves. So now, how many shots for the mortar? Let's go for some good shots, please. 3. Hitting on, it's been bracketed, so hitting on 4s. Wounding on 4s, wounds, and onto the 5-up invulnerable, which fails. So far, because there was some bolter fire came in from the Terminators, which managed to plink a wound off. That's 3 wounds taken off of that Night Crusader in total. So now the only thing really left to fire, because of that, is going to be these Blight Haulers into combat with the Warglaive. So we'll start with the Melters. So, because it's -1 to hit in combat, it's hitting on 4s. That's not bad. There's nothing left to shoot this phase, so I'm going to use a CP taking me down to 6. And that pays off. Okay, so 3s to wound. All 3 wound. Okay. On the 5-up invuln, because it's still classed as a ranged attack, I believe. Okay, so 2 go through. So that's going to be 4 damage as it is, plus 2d6. Do I want to CP that? Yes, I do. I want to CP that from the Imperial lines. Doesn't pay off. So 2d6 damage. Oh my goodness me. 14 wounds come through. That's 1 dead armature. So, does it blow up? Yes, it does. So, 6-inch radius doing D3 mortal wounds. So, let's have a look at the Plague Burst Crawler. For 3. Okay, reduced down to 2. The Blight Haulers does 1 wound. The Terminators does 1 wound. And the Tallyman does 2 wounds, reduced to 1 wound. Okay, that's a pretty big explosion. We'll get him removed from the field and see if there's anything needs charging. So there's only really 2 charges going to happen this turn. We're going to charge the Poxwalkers into the interceptors, and we're going to charge the bloat drone into those intercessors in the ruins. So we'll start with the Poxwalkers, which just get in, and the bloat drone, which also just gets in. Right, I'll move those in and we'll move on to the fight phase. So after the pile-in, everything managed to get within fighting range or engagement range of the interceptors. So I spent a CP on mutant strain. So 6s do mortal wounds and 1s kill the Poxwalkers. So here we go. Rolling only 1-1, but 5 6s. So now we're looking at 2 5s to wound. So as the mortal wounds are in addition, that is a total of 8 wounds to save. So 8 3-ups. Oh my god. So with the 3 mortal wounds, the 3 failed saves, plus a failed save and 2 of the mortals, and 3 of the mortals, that is the squad. Let's roll to see if that Poxwalker survived, by the way. Yeah, he did. So after all that, let's move on to the bloke thrown into the intercessors. So 4 attacks going into the intercessors, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s. That's 2 wounds at -2 to -1. Okay. So spending a CP on Gene Wrought Might to auto wound. Those of you who've watched the channel before know that I run the Salamander successors as the Whirlwind of Rage and the +1 to charge. So they'll get 6s explode in the first round of combat. So hitting on 3s. Okay. So having the 2 auto wounds, and then those explode obviously and give them to me, give them back to me in the dice roll for the wounds. So strength 4, toughness more than that, toughness 7, so 5s to wound, and 1 more wound. Okay, so 3 3-ups, which is fine. So at the end of the Death Guard turn, that's been a successful turn for them, and they netted 15 points on the primary because none of the energy nodes have been destroyed. So they've netted 15 points on the primary. They've killed all 3 of the Armiger Warglaves and Helverins. So they've managed to get rid of the squad of interceptors. So yeah, a really successful turn so far for the Death Guard. So with that in mind, what can the Imperial forces do to try and turn the tide of this war? So we go on to Imperial forces, turn 2. So at the end of the Imperial command phase and movement phase, both of the Canticle of Hate and the Mantra of Strength were successfully cast by the chaplain, and the chapter master rerolls again went on to the Eradicator squad. This squad of assault intercessors kind of hung around here, just biding their time, just waiting. I didn't want to throw them away by going into here, making way towards the objective, and then basically get counter-charged by a squad of Terminators and throw them away needlessly. So I didn't. And then we brought the Crusader went more towards the Plague Burst Crawler, and the Errants just shuffled around slightly and to see if we can get line of sight on the Plague Burst Crawler, and then look to maybe get rid of this squad of Poxwalkers in combat. So that is the sort of general plan for the turn. So what we'll do, there's no psychic as before, so we can head straight on to shooting. So we'll start with the Knight Errant firing into the Plague Burst Crawler. They've got 3 wounds to get through, so heavy 2d3. So that's 4. So we're hitting on 3s. And we're wounding on 3s. That's 1 wound on the 5-up demon save. Do I want to CP that this early? No. Which it fails. Do I want to CP that? No, because there's quite a lot coming in. So that is a very dead Plague Burst Crawler. Does it blow up? No. Okay. So we're going to split fire with the Crusader. The thermal cannon and melt are going to go into this Blight Launcher squad. And then the Gatling cannon's going to go into the squad of Plague Marines that are by the Noctilith Crown. So we'll start with the heavy Gatling cannon into the Plague Marines. So hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3s. So 7 wounds, the blessed number itself, come through. -2 becomes -1. So 4 ups. Being next to that monument is obviously doing them wonders. So now the melter gun into the blight launchers, which hits, which wounds. They fail to save. No, I don't think I'll use a CP just yet because I've got the Eradicators to fire at me for the Death Guard player, and I might want to use those to keep some of those Blight Lord Terminators alive. So no, we'll let that go through. So it's going to be D6 for 4 becomes 3. I don't think it's in half range. I'll just double check. No, not in half range. So now heavy 2d3 from the thermal cannon for 5. Hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3s. So it's 3 saves on the demon save. So here we go. Whoa, significant, very significant. So that is D6 plus 2, so it kills that first one. Does it blow up? Not that it makes much difference, but no, it doesn't anyway. So we fired the bolt pistols and the pistols into combat and into the Plague Marines, doing no damage. So now we come on to the Eradicator squad, and everything is going to go into the Blight Lord Terminators and see what damage we can do. So 3s to hit, re-rolling everything for the Chapter Master. Okay, it's not bad so far. And with the re-rolls, everything hit. So 3s to wound. I'm going to spend another CP actually. So spending a CP on Crucible of Battle, which adds 1 to the wound roll. So they're wounding on 2s. Made a difference. Definitely made a difference. So 8 saves onto the 4 up invulnerable. So let's see how we get on. Okay. Not bad. This is where I'm going to spend that CP. And it pays off. So, okay. So the first roll of the dice kills a Blight Lord. The second doesn't. Just puts 1 wound on a Blight Lord. Okay, 1's better than nothing, I suppose. Okay, so now it's time for charges. So everything from here, we've got the Canticle of Hate off, so it gets +2 to the charge. So everything from here, this blob is going to go into those Blight Lord Terminators and see if we can do a damage. Unbelievably, this knight is going to go and charge those Poxwalkers and see if we can get rid of that menace as well. And then round here, decisions. I've got a choice. Do I charge this knight into the Blight Hauler, or do I charge him into the Lord of Contagion? I'll have a think. So starting with the charges down here, we'll start with the Assault Intercessors. I barely need anything at all, but they're in. The Chaplain needs a 5 and makes it, and the Gravis Captain needs a 6, which I'm going to spend a CP to reroll. Gets him in as well. So we'll roll for the Errant getting into the Poxwalkers, which he makes it, and then we'll roll for the Crusader, who's going to go into the Lord of Contagion. It needs a 9, but I think we get +1 to the charge for House Griffith. Either way, he's in. Excellent. I'll move them all in and we'll get started. So coming over here first, the Canticle of Hate gives an extra bit to their piling as well, so really managed to get up into the Blight Lord's lines. But we'll start with the Chaplain, who gets 4 attacks base, 5 attacks on the charge. So 6s explode in the first round of combat for this chapter, so we're hitting on 2s. Excellent. So strength 7 with the mantra of strength coming off and the benediction of fury. So 3s to wound, 6s do mortal wounds in addition. Okay, so we've done 1 mortal wound and another wound. So we make 1 and we fail 1. So that kills 1 Terminator because it's now damage 4. It was damage 3, so kills a Terminator and puts 1 down to 2 wounds remaining. And then we'll move on to the Gravis Captain, who's got the Burning Blade. So 5 attacks base, 6 attacks on the charge. So hitting on 2s. They all hit, but none explode. The way I'm playing it, I know so strength 8 with the Burning Blade, so 3s to wound. Okay, so 3, -5, -4, so onto the 4 up invulnerable. And another one, 2 damage becomes 1 damage, so that Blight Lord is down to 1 wound remaining. So spending another CP on Gene-wrought Might for the Assault Intercessors. This is all the attacks they get because of the Shock Assault and the Chainsword. Hitting on 3s. So 2 auto wound and go back in. So now 5s to wound. So 5 2-up saves. Yay! And now we move on to the Knight Errant, doing a sweep attack into the Poxwalkers. So he gets 12 attacks. So the Death Guard are paying 2 CP to interrupt. And the Lord of Virulence is putting everything into this Knight Crusader. So he's going to use his cleave attack. So he's hitting on 3s. Okay. Strength 7, and now toughness 7 because of contagion, so 4s to wound, re-rolling 1s. Okay, so that's 2 wounds. So 6 up makes neither of them. So that's 4 wounds go through. So now the Crusader gets to go stomp, stomp, stomp back on him. So 4 attacks, 3s to hit. Misses twice. Obviously, that Lord of Contagion is quite a little dodgy man. 3s to wound. 2 wounds at -2 become -1, so 3 up saves. And the Lord of Contagion takes its 2 damage reduced to 1 damage, so he takes 1 wound. So spending another CP on Mutant Strain for the Poxwalkers to fight back, and there's 7 left. So hitting on 4s and 6s doing mortal wounds. Okay. 6s to wound. 1 wound comes through, which is saved. So do the 2 Poxwalkers die? No, 1 does. So everything from the Blightlord Terminators are going to go into the Chaplain as it happens. And try and get rid of that, try and get rid of those buffs it gives out. So start with a flail. 6 attacks, hitting on 3s. Not bad. Wounding on 3s. Rerolling that 1. So -2 becomes -1. So 4 ups. Even with the CP is dead. Okay. And so the swords will go into the captain. I know I declared it, but you know, it's my garage. Sue me. Reduced toughness 4, so 3s to wound. Okay. The Gravis Captain has +2 to his toughness, which makes him toughness 5, reducing by 1, toughness 6. The Bow Sword makes it strength 5, so 5s to wound, but it roll 3 5s. So either which way it works itself out. So let's see what we save. No, we don't. So that marks the end of the Imperial turn, and a bit of a mixed bag, really. Lost one of our characters, one of our HQ units, and still haven't been in the position to carry out any actions on the nodes. So at the end of turn 2, the Death Guard are on 15 points. Still none of the nodes are destroyed, so they're going to gain another 15 points as they go into turn 3. So let's see how the Death Guard cope with the Knights starting to get into their lines. So Death Guard, turn 3. At the end of the movement phase and during the command phase, the Tallyman managed to get the tally off for the extra CP. And at the end of the movement phase, this is where we stand. We've brought the Terminators round, looking to charge into that Knight, and we brought the Blight Hauler round there, starting to make his headway up the board. The Death Shroud have moved round, as have this squad of Plague Marines, but this squad of Plague Marines have stayed still in the middle here, whilst this squad has started to make their way towards the Eradicators in the Imperium deployment zone. Everything else has remained in combat. So with nothing else doing there, we'll move on to the Psychic phase. And nice and simple, we're going to do a smite into the Knight there, and then do Miasma of Pestilence onto this squad of Terminators. So start with the smite, which goes off for 1, and then Miasma of Pestilence, which also goes off. Which doesn't goes off, perils him. I'll spend a CP. Right. Okay. Excellent. So miasma, of course, doesn't go off, and that kills the Psyker, and everything within 6 suffers D3 mortal wounds. So we'll start with the Tallyman, and we're going to use the Imperial dice for this, because why not? For 1, that's not too bad. And then for the Blight Lords, for 1 as well. Okay, so nothing too dramatic, but we do lose the Psyker. So as there's not much can either be seen or it's all in combat, we're going to go straight onto the shooting phase. So it's going to be the Blight Hauler. We can just see that squad of Assault Intercessors. So we're going to start with a crack missile, which hits, doesn't wound. And then 2 multi-melters, both hit, both wound, 6 up save. And that kills, well, it's not in half range, so let's do the first one, which kills 1, second one, definitely kills 1. Okay. So the only other shooting to happen is going to be this squad of Plague Marines into the Eradicators. So we'll do the bolters off camera, then come back for the plasma pistol and the Blight Launcher. So managing to ping 1 wound off of one of them, we'll move on to the Blight Launcher. Okay. And now the plasma pistol from the champion, which hits, which wounds, and doesn't save, so another wound done. So with not much else doing, we'll go straight on to the charge phase. Now there's going to be charges here from the Blight Lords. The Tallyman did put the +1 onto the Blight Lords, which is going to go into the Knight. The Death Shroud are also going to go into the Knight. And then round this end, we're going to put this squad of Plague Marines into the Eradicators. And I'm just contemplating whether to get this melee squad into the Assault Intercessors there. I'll have a think about that. So we'll start with the Terminators. I think just don't roll a Snake Eyes. I think they're going to be fine. Yes, they're in. The Death Shroud will do the same, and they're in. And for the squad of Plague Marines getting into the Eradicators, it just needs a 4. And they're in 2. I am going to spend a CP to do Overwatch with those Eradicators. So I'll get the dice together and come back. Okay, so we're going to go in 4 melter shots into the Plague Marines. Ooh, we get 2 hits. Strength 8, toughness 5, so 3's to wound. And we get 1 wound. I'm going to use a CP in this phase as well. No, I can't. Right, so. -4 becomes -3, and that's not saved. So D6 damage. +2 at this range. So it does 3 damage. That kills Plague Marine. So we'll start with the Death Shroud champion, who's got the Reaper of Glorious Entropy. So we're hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s. Okay, we'll go through. So that Reaper is strength ×2. So it'd be strength 8 versus toughness 7 because of contagion range. So 3's re-rolling 1s. Okay, so 3 wounds come through. It's -3, 3 damage. So it takes a further 6 damage so far. So then the rest of the Death Shroud come in, hitting on 3s because of the cleave action. And re-roll those 1s. And these will be Strength 7 versus Toughness 7, so 4s re-rolling 1s. A further 3 come through. Let's see what we get. Okay. So that leaves the knight with 4 wounds remaining. So we're going to go on to the Flail of Corruption, so hitting on 3s. Rerolling 1s because of the Lord, looking for contagions in nearby. So Strength 5 versus Toughness 7, so 5s to wound on this one. Rerolling the 1s. So 2 wounds come through. It's -2, so 5s on this one, else it's a dead knight. It's got 2 wounds remaining. And now for the axes, hitting on 3s. Rerolling the 1. It's not a bad spread. So still 5s to wound. And rerolling the 1s. So 6 at -2. So watch all 5s. All 5s. Come on, let's go. 5s. Nope. So not bothering to see whether it explodes or not. I'm going to spend the CP to do it. I mean, I'm going to roll anyway. Let's just see. No, so I'm spending the CP anyway. Okay, that was just out of interest. So now it's 2d6 in terms of distance. So 8 inches, and everything within that gets d6 mortal wounds. Right, so that's a lot of stuff it's going to hit. Pretty much everything up to the Tallyman, this squad of Marines here, the Foul Blight Spawn, and certainly this squad of Marines here. So we're going to start and work our way that way. So let's start with the Tallyman. Only 1. It's got 1 wound remaining. He's a very lucky Tallyman. The Blight Lord Terminators. That kills 1. Okay. Move that one that's on 2 wounds. And just put 2 wounds on another one. Okay. The Blight Hauler. For 4. Leaves it with 5 wounds remaining. The Death Shroud. For 2. Leaves a model. Leaves a Death Shroud on 1 wound remaining. The Lord of Contagion. Leaves him with 1 wound remaining. The Foul Blight Spawn. Leaves him with 1 wound remaining. The squad of Plague Marines centre of the board. Kills 3 of them. The squad of Plague Marines near the Noctilith Crown. Injures 1 of them. Okay. So there's a gaping hole where that knight used to be. So now we're going to move on to the squad of Plague Marines that are fighting the Eradicators. So start with the Plague Marines, the normal Marines. So hitting on 3s. Strength 4 versus Toughness 4 because of contagion, so 4s to wound. Rerolling those 1s. So 4 wounds at no minus. And they're fine. There's a champion in that squad, so he's hitting on 4s because of the -1 to hit with his Power Fist. Hits once. Wounds. It saves. Okay, so the Eradicators have tanked it. And that's all the combat for the charging units. So now we move on to units that are existing combat, and we'll start with the captain. So it's 5 attacks, hitting on 2s. 6s don't explode this time because it's not the first round of combat. So strength 7 versus toughness 5, so 3s to wound. Oh, that isn't bad at all. Oh, don't you just wish it did like mortal wounds or something? Okay. So that's 5 saves on the 4 invulnerable, of which 2 go through. So it does kill 1 and put 1 down to 2 wounds because of damage reduction. So everything will come back from the Terminators into the Gravis Captain. So we'll start with the flail. Strength is 5 to wound because of the Warlord trait on the Gravis Captain, giving him +2 toughness. No wound, we roll that 1. No wounds, okay. And then the Bale Sword will hit 1 wound, which he fails. Okay. And now the Assault Intercessors are going to pile in and do some work. So 3s re-rolling 1s. Okay. 5s to wound. 1 wound, which is saved. So spending another CP on Mutant Strain for the Poxwalkers going into the night, so only 6s will do mortal wounds. That's not bad. 6s to wound. does a wound. Okay. Which it saves. Okay, so it's taken 3 more mortal wounds. So we're moving on to the Eradicators, and we're spending the command points for Gene Wrought Might. So any 6s will not only explode but will auto wound as well, given that the Marines are toughness 5, makes it difficult. So here we go. So strength 4, toughness 5, so 5s to wound. So 9 wounds all told, so 9 3-up saves. Oh, we kill 1. So we resolved the bloat drone and the intercessors off camera. The bloat drone managed to kill 1 and put a wound on another, and nothing back for the intercessors. So there's some decisions to be made there, but now we'll resolve this with the knight. So you're going to do the sweep attack again. So 4 attacks turns into 12 attacks because of the sweep, hitting on 3s. Okay. Killing on 2s. Okay. So that's just enough go through, so it's 2 damage each. So the first one, dead. Second one, dead. Third one, dead. Fourth one, dead. Fifth one, woo, dead. 6th one, dead. So that clears those Poxwalkers away from that knight and frees it up for the next turn. So that really concludes the Death Guard turn. They really have, or really are doing a number in this game on the Imperial forces. The most damage done so far has been by a knight that's blown up. There's a lot to do. The at the minute, we're not, as an Imperium player, we're not even in a position to destroy any of these nodes and gain ourselves any points. Now I know there's everything to do in the sort of latter stages of the game, but there's every chance we're going to leave this too late because we're already on turn 3. So, you know, I really need to be in a position as an Imperial player to be getting rid of these. And the trouble is, doing the actions means I cannot be firing at the same time. So we really are in a predicament, and I'm not sure after this turn 3 for the Imperium whether I'm going to be able to get enough points back, because at the end of the game there's 15 points on that Noctilith Crown for whoever controls it. So there's an awful lot of work to do, and I'm just not sure at the moment whether the Imperium forces can actually pull it back. But anyway, we'll go on to turn 3 and see what can be done. You know, it's never over till that massive fat lady sings. So let's see. After the command phase and the movement phase for the ghosts, there's not many assets left on the table, but let's see what we can do with what we've got left. So the knight's moved himself forward to get a line of sight on this Blight Hauler and maybe take out the Plague Marines if he can. The Eradicators have moved back, looking to see if the Plague Marines charge again and see if we can do some more work in the Overwatch phase. The Intercessors have moved out of combat with the Bloat Drone, and everything else has stayed in combat. The only other thing is the 3 Assault Intercessors that were left have moved themselves forward into the ruins in an effort to see what, if anything, can be done down this flank. Like I say, we're not sure what, if anything, can be done given the current point score 30-0. But let's see. It's not over until it's over. So with that, we'll move on to the shooting phase. We'll start here with the Assault Intercessors into the Tallyman. So we'll start with the 2 bolt pistols. 1 hits and doesn't wound. Then we'll start with the plasma pistol from the Sergeant, which hits and doesn't wound. Okay, good start. So we're going to do all the pistols from the Gravis Captain and the Intercessors in at the same time, because they're all the same profile. We'll do the Gravis Captain with the red dice, so it's hitting on 2s. And they all hit. 5s to wound. There you go. So now the last thing to shoot is going to be the knight, and we're going to split fire. We're going to put the melter gun actually into the Blight Hauler here. Then everything else is going to go into that squad of Plague Marines there. So we'll start with the melter gun, some tracer melter, which misses. So that's a good start. It's now heavy 2d3 for the thermal cannon. For 2. Oh man. They both hit. Wounding on 3s. And I'll spend a CP, which doesn't pay off. Okay. So do we save? We don't. So it's D6 plus 2, so that does kill a Marine. So the only thing we're going to do is charge this knight into the squad of Plague Marines. Which he gets in. Okay, to make sure he clears them, he's going for the sweep attack. We're trying to do, my fear is only having 4 attacks, he misses and then I can't kill the squad. So we're going to go for the sweep attack. So we're hitting on 3s. Strength 8, toughness 5, so 3s to wound. So -3 becomes -2, so 5 ups. And 2 damage reduced to 1 damage, kills 1 and puts 1 on 1 wound. So the only other bit is ongoing combat, and again everything from the Blight Lords is going to go into the captain. So we're hitting on 3s with a flail. So 5s to wound, we're rolling 1s. So 2 wounds so far, 3 wounds. Okay. So -2 becomes -1, so on his 4-up invulnerables. Oh no. Spending a CP on Gene Wrought Might, so let's go on to the Assault Intercessors into the Blight Lords. That's a CP well spent. 5s to wound. No, not bad. If you just fail all these, that'd be amazing. Oh, fail 1, but that's it. So at the end of the Imperium turn, still nothing doing. Still not in any chance of actually doing the actions to destroy these nodes, because we've got Death Guard units within 3 inches of all of them. So with that, we'll move on to Death Guard, turn 4. At the end of the command phase and the movement phase, the Terminators move their way around to face off against the Assault Intercessors. The 2 Plague Marines in combat with the Knight fall back, whilst the Blight Hauler comes through. The Death Shroud and the melee heavy squad of Plague Marines move up towards the Knight. And over on this flank, the Bloat Drone comes over, the Blight Lords stay in combat, and the Plague Marines come bearing down upon what's left of the Eradicators. A 4-man squad, 1 wounded. Will they hold firm? Well, let's see as we move on to Death Guard's shooting phase. We'll start with the Blight Hauler into the Knight. So we'll start with the crack missile, which hits, which wounds, and it fails. So d6 damage for 5 damage. Oh god. Onto the multi-melters. Both hit. Multi-melters. 1 wound. Okay. Fails again. The damage. That's another 5 damage, d6 plus 2. There is not a lot left on this Knight. So all the bolter shots and plasma came in from that squad of Plague Marines, but nothing was doing. So I'll move on to the Foul Blight Spawn. So, number of shots for 5. Strength 8 because of the relic, viscous death and all that kind of stuff. So strength 8 anyway against toughness 7. So 3s to wound, re-rolling the 1s. And there's 1-1. Okay. So -3, 6 up saves. Oh no, he has its ranged weapon. So he has invulnerable saves. I'm going to spend a CP to rotate the iron shields. So 4 ups. Oh my god. And on that, he's left with 1 wound remaining. So with everything done from here, we go on to charges. And it'll be the Death Shroud, the melee heavy squad going in. Around here, we'll go the Plague Marines into the Eradicators. So in we go. For the Plague Marine squad, they're in. And for the Death Shroud, they're also in. I'm spending a CP on that squad there, so again we're going to fire our melter rifles into that squad of Plague Marines, so hidden on 6s. Not a single one. And do they make it in? They should do. Yes, they do. Right. So move those all in and go into combat. Oh, the other. Let's move this squad in as well. The Tallyman gave them in the command phase. He did give them the +1, and with the 6, they're in. We'll start with the Death Shroud into the night. There's not much for it to get through, but let's see what we can do. So we'll start with the champion with 5 attacks and his Reaper of Glorious Entropy. So hitting on 2s. It misses twice, and he's not within reroll range of the Lord of Contagion. So wounding on strength 7, sorry, strength 8, toughness 7, so 3s. Rerolling 1s. Okay, and these are -3, each one doing 3 damage. And no. And so the knight, with a blare of its horns and a howl, it falls. But does it blow up? Don't have any CPs. Let's see if I can roll a 6. No. And so moving on to the Blight Lords into this squad of Assault Intercessors, I'm starting with the Flail. So 6 attacks hitting on 3s. Wounding on 2s, rerolling 1s. So 5 4-up saves. And that kills 2. So now onto the axes. Again 3s. 2s, rerolling 1s. Again 4 4-ups to stay alive. Ooh. Okay. The hero sergeant fights back, misses 3 times, and fails to wound. And so after the sergeant fails to wound anything back on the Blightlord Terminators, we make the decision that that is where this story should end. The Death Guard have held firm. They've crushed the Imperial lines. And the Noctilith Crown fires into life as the crowning of Storvhal is complete. I hope you enjoyed watching, and see you again soon. So just finished filming the crowning of Storvhal with the knights and the ghosts against the Death Guard. I don't think I've used the knights well or effectively, but they were great fun. I can see the appeal of using them. First time using them, don't think I've got any of it really right, and forgot a lot of stuff, but like I say, it was a lot of fun. That was not that strong a list for the ghosts or that efficient, but I think it was a pretty strong list for the Death Guard, proving a point that they've still got quite a lot to offer. Like I said, the knights, I don't know. The fact that Death Guard have gone through, 2 knights and 3 armigers, I don't know whether that would be expected or not without some more use. So to sum up, I think, although I've really enjoyed it, it was really heavily, the Death Guard won, but it's a narrative game, and the thing was they scored points for every node that wasn't destroyed, and basically the Imperial lines could not get to the point where any nodes were destroyed. They weren't clearing down the units, so it's what it is. Do I think this needs revisiting with a secondary mission? Yeah, I think it does. So that's the plan. We'll put something together and revisit Storvhal and see if this crown can be deactivated instead. So, as I say, hope you enjoyed it and see you all soon.